It's me, MLB. Here is chapter 25 of Chance Ball, and this one is titled Tell 'em. Your anguished cry followed Dabi out as he threw the swinging double doors open and stormed out into the hallway, walking straight over to the opposite wall and slamming his fist into it. Hell! He yelled into the clinically white walls, hurling his fist against it again before banging his forehead into it, his face contorting with so many mixed emotions he didn't know which one to focus on at that point. He heard your cry again, followed with a hitching, sobbing noise, and he immediately turned and walked straight back into the room, 100% focused on you as he made straight towards you and grabbed you in a tight hug, half bending over the exam bed as he tried to half sit up. The doctor stepped back and silently excused himself as Dabi held you tight in his arms. I'm sorry, you sobbed. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. Dabi didn't say anything. He just gripped you tighter, crunching his teeth together and gritting as hard as he could so he bit back the tears. Don't leave me, you whispered in an anguished voice. Please don't go. I'm not going anywhere, he grunted, burying his face into your neck as you clung to him. You both continued to hug, desperately clinging to each other and praying this nightmare would end. After what felt like an eternity, the sonographer returned and told you that the warden would be in to take you to the maternity ward soon. The medical staff wanted to keep an eye on you overnight to make sure everything was all right, as far as the termination was concerned, and the midwives wanted to talk to you as well. I'm sorry, the nurse said as you were admitted to the ward. Your partner will have to leave, but he's welcome to visit you tomorrow. You looked sadly at Dabi, and he nodded solemnly at the nurse before glancing at you. Yin, your parents are here and are waiting to see you. I'll show them in once you're ready, the nurse added. Oh, crap, you gasped internally, completely forgetting about your parents. Do they know what's going on? The nurse left Dabi said his goodbyes. You need to rest, he said gruffly, as he reached out and took your hand, squeezing it firmly in his. Dabi, you said again in a meek voice. I'm really sorry. This is my fault. He didn't say anything, but just looked away and clenched his jaw, and then unclenched and cleared his throat. I'll see you tomorrow, he said in a low, raspy voice. Your heart sank again, and as he left the hospital room, tears spilled from your eyes. I honestly thought it was negative, you wailed to yourself internally. I wouldn't have knowingly put the baby in danger. As you cried to yourself, your parents walked into the room, and your mum ran to the side of the bed. Honey, your mum said urgently, what happened? Are you hurt? You tried to wipe your tears away and put on a brave face, but you just didn't feel like putting on that mask at that point, and your futile efforts went down the plug hole as you started bawling again. I'm fine, you wailed. All we know is you got hit, your mum continued, stroking your hair with fond concern as you lay semi-propped up. Where'd you get hit, honey? In my guts, you replied. It just hurts so bad, that's all. As you were finishing your sentence, the doctor came into the room and addressed you, and you froze. Oh, no, God, please. Don't say anything, you screamed internally, your widened eyes begging him to remain silent, but he wasn't catching any of your urgent signals. Miss Lynn, the doctor said bluntly, I'd like to discuss your blood results if that's okay. You hummed nervously. Privately, of course, he said, smiling politely at your parents. Your mum and dad looked at him, and then at you. Why aren't they allowing us to hear the results? Your father asked suspiciously. This is a confidential consult, the doctor said authoritatively. I'll be out to talk with you in a minute, he added, as he stepped to the side of your bed and swiftly swung his arm out to indicate for them to leave. Begrudgingly, your parents left, leaving you to talk privately with the doctor. Miss Lynn, your blood work indicates that there was already an anomaly with the pregnancy, and had you not sustained the blow to the abdomen, your body would have terminated the fetus anyway, the doctor said bluntly, sticking purely with the facts and not letting emotions get in the way. What? You asked numbly. He nodded solemnly. Currently you're at 7 weeks, and we would like to keep you overnight and administer abortifacients, should the body fail to completely expel. His voice continuing to drone on in the background as you internalized, going numb as you came to terms with the fact that either way you would have ended up having a miscarriage. You felt sick to your stomach and went limp on the bed, looking off towards the wall as the doctor kept talking. I feel it would be best if your parents were to know, you heard him say, your head whipping towards him when you registered what he had said. No, you said fearfully. No, please don't. If you insist that I do not tell them, then you will have to tell them, he said sternly. There's no other way to explain why we're holding you overnight. You teared up again, fear gripping you by the windpipe and threatening to crush your vocal cords. I'll do it, you whispered hoarsely. Very well, he replied as he stood up. The nurse will be in later to check on you. You nodded mechanically and watched him go, heart thumping heavily in your chest as you waited for your parents to come back in. As promised, the doctor only spoke briefly with them and didn't mention anything about the miscarriage, but did say that you had something to tell them. Your dad entered first, looking very concerned as he walked up to the bed. "There's something that you want to tell us?" he asked. Your mum came up to the other side of the bed and you looked at them both as your bottom lip started quivering. "Mum, Dad, please don't be mad," you said in a wobbly voice. "What is it?" your mum asked softly. "Sweetheart, are you pregnant?" "No," you replied brokenly, tears streaming down your face. "I lost the baby." Your mum gasped and clasped her hand to her mouth, and your dad hung his head as he gripped harder onto the side rails of the hospital bed. You broke down again, sobbing with pain and confusion, but above all, guilt. You knew the doctor had said the baby wouldn't have survived anyway, but the fact that you got hit left you wondering if maybe he had lied to you so that you wouldn't feel like you were the one to blame for the loss of your baby. "Honey, did you know?" your mum asked in a shaky voice, reaching out to take your hand in hers. "Yes and no," you sobbed. I thought I might have been pregnant, so I did a test, but I thought it came up negative. But when Dabi came to the game, he told me it was positive." You wiped your eyes with the back of your hand. "Where is he?" your dad said darkly. "Dad, don't!" you sobbed. "Where's Dabi?" he yelled louder. "Don't, please," you begged. "Honey, now's not the time," your mum berated him. He angrily pushed off the hospital bed rail and stormed out the door, leaving you and your mum to talk. "Mum, I'm so sorry. I was stupid and I didn't think anything of it. And I'm so sorry," you rambled in a distraught voice. "I won't let it happen again," you added, having had the biggest wake-up call of your life. "You're 18 now," your mum said with tears in her eyes. "You need to start taking the right precautions if you're going to be sleeping with Dabi." "Mum!" you wailed, covering your face with your hands. "This is such an embarrassing conversation." "Yes, but it's necessary, obviously," your mum said sternly. "I'm going to talk to the doctors about the pill." "I can do that," you said quickly. "You'd better follow through," your mum cautioned. "I will, I promise. I have a lot of regrets. I'm not going to do anything stupid again," you promised. Your mum nodded. "I'm going to talk to your father. We'll go home so he can cool off, and we'll be back to see you tomorrow," she said as she leaned across the bedside and wrapped an arm around you. "I'm so sorry," you said in a quivering, broken voice. "You're okay, and that's good enough for me," your mum said softly, kissing you gently on the cheek before leaning back and patting your head. "Rest up." "Thank you," you whispered softly, watching as she left. "Dad's thoroughly pissed," you thought with a grimace as you reached for your phone, intending to text Dabi. You hesitated as you opened your phone and looked down at it. What if he doesn't want to hear from me at the moment? You thought sadly, feeling very alone all of a sudden. You let your hand, with phone in it, fall to the bedside, and you looked off to your left out the hospital window, letting out a troubled sigh. Dabi caught the bus home, silently fuming to himself about your carelessness. He desperately wanted to be a dad, to prove himself worthy, to prove that he could be a better father than his own father, and his chance had come, but was snatched away from him in the blink of an eye. "Stupid, stupid girl," he yelled internally, gritting his teeth as he stared out the bus window. How could she have been so frickin' blasé about it? He thought back to the conversation that you'd had with him, how he was always being the one pushing you, and you kind of just went along with it. She wanted a kid though too, didn't she? If she didn't, she should have taken the pill, he thought with annoyance. Then another voice interjected. "Yeah, but you should have wrapped it before you tapped it." He sighed aggressively and hung his head, pressing his forehead into the back of the seat in front of him as he stared at his shoes. "I'm not completely free of the blame either," he thought angrily. That night, after a lot of calming down, he texted you to find out how you were doing. "I'm so sorry, Dabi. I'm so stupid. Please forgive me. This won't happen again. This is a heavy mistake to learn from," you sent. "Listen, I'm not completely free of this blame either," he replied. "We should have talked about this better. It's a big decision, and we just acted like it was a McDonald's order." You smiled as you read his message. Dabi always had an uncanny way of making you smile. "I'm smarter now," you sent. "I'm learning from my mistakes." "Wait, are we on the same page?" he texted. "Huh?" you replied. "What do you mean?" "You're not going to go and say that you're giving up on doing it with me, are you?" he asked. You smirked deviously as you tapped out your reply to him. "Yeah, I'm changing schools to a nunnery. I'm taking up the vow of celibacy," you sent sarcastically. "Well, looks like I'm about to commit a kidnapping then," he sent back, making you smile. "You coming to see me tomorrow?" you asked. "Yeah, baby, of course," he sent back, and your heart melted. "I love you," you texted. "Thanks. I'm kidding. I love you too." "You're an ass." "Nuns aren't allowed to swear," he replied. You snorted with amusement and texted your goodbyes and then put your phone down, body feeling heavy from the drugs that they had pumped into you. The next day, Dabi arrived to see you, at the same time that your parents showed up, and your dad saw him walking down the hallway before Dabi spotted him. "Dabi!" your dad yelled down the hall, making the lithe teen stop dead in his tracks. "Hun, not now," your mum begged, trying to hold your dad back as he started marching purposefully down the hallway. Dabi stood his ground, turquoise eyes watching your dad get closer. Once he was in strike range, Dabi spoke. "If you've never done anything wrong in your life, hit me," he dared lowly. Your dad faltered in his steps and slowed. "Hit me. Hit me if you're perfect. Hit me. Hit me if you have no regrets in your life. Hit me," Dabi said in a purposeful voice. "If you hit me, you're a hypocrite, because I know no one's perfect," he added. Your dad seethed, balling his fists up by his side as the two testosterone-filled males continued their stare-off. "I know I'm not perfect," Dabi said, "and I want to apologise on behalf of myself and Yin." "Don't you dare talk about Yin," your dad seethed. "Oh, I'll talk about her, because one day she'll be my wife, whether you like it or not. So if you don't want to know me now, then don't bet on seeing the grandkids either," Dabi dared. Sorry that was such a heavy chapter. Chapter 26 coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.